Just do the needful so that the House can progress.
I'm obliged.
Senator, Leader of Majority, continue.
So, Mr. Speaker, as you retired to make this very important decision, because we must be very careful, Mr. Speaker, of the possibility of, in future, of one saying that the Auditor General will have the discretion to table certain reports. If you look at subsection 4 of Article 229, you will find that, or Section 4 of the 229, you will find serious Auditor General reports there, which includes the accounts of the national and county governments. And as Senator, the Chair of Public Accounts Committee, County Accounts Committee has alluded, we might have, your communication might have to be considered even more, not just as a communication, but basically that the committee will have to come back with proper amendments of the Public Finance Management Act, so that then we can make sure that the reports that are related to county governments are definitely tabled in this House. But then there's a problem there, because I think the Constitution, I have consulted the clerk, and he has advised me accordingly that the challenge with subsection 7 is the use of the word or the relevant county assembly. But the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, presupposes that we will have purposive interpretation, Mr. Speaker. Because if we allow a situation where the Auditor General would now cherry pick and say, Elgeyo Marakwet County accounts, he has submitted to County Assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet. And then he says, therefore, since I've submitted to the County Assembly of Elgeyo Marakwet, I don't have to submit to the Senate. We will have a problem with Article 96, which says the Senate oversights accounts of counties. And it can only do so if we have a properly tabled accounts in this House. So I want you, Mr. Speaker, as you consider it, holistically, look at Article 96, look at this provision of Article 229, without being constricted in the narrow definition of or and in subsection 7, so that then we do not have an ambiguity where, because you will have a situation like in Muranga, for example, where the county assembly is struggling, or county government, national government, fighting over a water fund, yeah? And in that situation, it might be necessary that the Senate's Oversight Committee, intervenes. And it cannot do so if the accounts of that fund is not brought to this House. So even if Senate may not act on the reports, or National Assembly, it's important that those reports are tabled in this House, because again, the Parliament has the power and duty to look at all reports that come from across the country under Article 125, summon anybody to come and clarify anything under Article 125. So I don't want us to lock ourselves. I just wanted to insist that let's not create an interpretation that would lock us to and or of Article 129.7 at the expense of us being able to intervene in cases where county assembly may not successfully do anything about a fund in a county. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Cheruiyot Aaron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to add my voice to this issue. I share in the concerns of CPIC Chairman, Senator Moses Kajwang, in as far as the need to have input of county assemblies into the accounts of a particular county, Mr. Speaker. Of course, the rebuttal by the Leader of Majority is with merit as well, as far as Article 96 is concerned, Mr. Speaker, of the need of us as Senate to have the final word on any particular issues that touches on the success or failure of devolution. But I want to imagine a situation, Mr. Speaker, where, say, for example, a senator of a particular county is not in the room when CPIC is considering accounts that have been brought before them. And they read about, and I have had opportunity to read through the accounts, the Auditor General report of my county. And some of the issues that are raised, it only takes a resident of that particular county to understand the underlying issues. And if you find yourself in such a situation where CPIC is considering the accounts without any formalized way of the assembly having their input on this particular issue, then chances are so many issues may easily be explained away by the executive with failure of either the resident senator or the county assembly actually pointing out the committee to the right direction that what the executive is answering is misleading to this particular extent. We have found instances, Mr. Speaker, where a particular road, say for example, is named Road A to B using the local name. Then when the county executive committee member appear before CPIC, they use the same road as Road B to A. You know, such things cannot easily be picked out by CPIC. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, as you retire, perhaps to make your consideration and guide this House on what we need to do, we may need to establish if we can find a legislative process of guiding how these matters are considered. Perhaps start at the county assembly, then bring it to the Senate formally and say this is what we are able to establish as an assembly and this is our verdict. Then now the Senate committee considers the matter in totality. Even if we find it to be difficult, one of the things that Senator Moses Kajwang, you may want to consider, I do not think, unless maybe there's something that I'm not aware of, that would block you for inviting the particular county assembly CPIC committee of that committee on the day that you're listening to the accounts of that specific county. That may help to guide the process as we think about how to seal this legislative gap that exists. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator, what's the point of intervention, Senator Kajwang?
Mr. Speaker, it was more of a point of information to my friend, the distinguished senator for Kericho, to inform him that Nakuru County and Meru County Public Account Committee joined us here in Nairobi when their governors appeared. And in the last 1 week, we have been in Kwale County and Mombasa County, and all the sessions you have had have been in the presence of members of the Public Accounts Committee. And Mr. Speaker, I just want to inform my friend that we are developing a model which we think, a prototype which we think will work. And we believe that this committee is more effective when it goes to the counties rather than when it sits here in Nairobi. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Senator Cheriot.
Mr. Speaker, I'm informed and I appreciate that information. Just to request that when Kericho comes, please invite the county assembly as well.
Senator Farhia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. For me, my comment is, if I agree with the majority leader, if you don't table those reports, then we miss an opportunity in cases where the county assemblies are probably in sync with the MCAs, and citizens of that county are really aggrieved about certain issues. And if they are not adequately addressed, Mr. Speaker, then we miss. Alternatively, Mr. Speaker, we could deal with this issue, make a law, but create a caveat whereby certain reports, if there are citizens who are aggrieved on certain issues, we can still handle. But let us not use a sweeping statement whereby we say this is exclusively for county assemblies and this is exclusively for Senate, because in the cases where the county assembly can't deal with such things because of certain interests, then I think the citizens have to have another option where they can deal with it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, honorable senators. Like I said, I'll look at all that and give a comprehensive report in 1 week's time. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Dr. Abdullahi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to give notice of the following motion, that this House notes the report of the Parliament of Kenya delegation to the second ordinary session of the 5th Parliament of the Pan-African Parliament, held in Midrand, South Africa, from 6th to 18th of May 2019, laid on the table of the House of the Senate on Tuesday, 10 September 2019. I thank you.
Next order.
Order number 7, statements.
Senator Naomi Shiyonga.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Pursuant to Standing Order 48.1, I raise to seek a statement from the Standing Committee of Roads and Transportation concerning safety of the roads users, specifically pedestrians and persons living with disabilities, PWDs. In the statement, the committee should state whether the Kenya National Highway Authority, KENHA, has mapped out the danger spots along the major highways and roads for constructions of the footbridges for the use by pedestrians whose lives are endangered while crossing roads at the said spots. 2, state when KENHA will construct footbridges on Mombasa Road stretch along the parklands, parkside towers, or any other suitable area not far off from the parkside towers and along the Kakamega-Webuye Highway in order to minimize accident cases arising from pedestrians. And 3, explain progress made by the ministry towards ensuring that all future roads designs at the national and county levels are user-friendly to pedestrians and persons living with disability, PWDs. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Chilayako.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to congratulate my sister, Senator Shiyonga, for raising this very important topic. Mr. Speaker, if you travel to Europe, to the US, and to other developed nations, you will find that there are footpaths, there are crossings, and other signs that are important for pedestrian use and people with disability. We are in the 21st century, and we continue seeing modernization of roads, but we are yet to see parts of our roads that are designated for cyclists, for pedestrians, and for people with disability. When the relevant committee will be seeking answers, it would be in good order for answers regarding what plans are there to modernize our roads so that they are in a tandem with global best practice, where there are paths for cyclists, there are footpaths and crossings for people with disability, so that we move at the same pace with the global world.
Senator Olekina Ledamo.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I thank you. From the onset, I want to support the statement by my sister, Senator Naomi Shiyonga, and state that I think the senator forgot that we did pass a bill in this House, which is a bill that I sponsored, dealing specifically on these issues of road safety and how county government should be able to plan for the pavements and walkways. And I hope that the National Assembly, which now has a bill after it was passed by this House, would be able to really speed it up so that we can be able to ensure that our people are safe. Mr. Speaker, sir, I'm quite happy that currently the Nairobi City County is actually implementing some of our proposals in that bill with the new roads which are being constructed now. Mr. Speaker, sir, one of the things which is important for this committee to look into is, one, what other incidences are being recorded on a daily basis so that this information can be able to assist in expediting the passage of that bill, and also making sure that once a bill is passed and it becomes a law, it is implemented, because that is the biggest problem we have. I'm sure a lot of people who walk from, excuse me, who walks from Kangemi all the way to Westlands, most of them on a daily basis are hit, or those ones who are dying along Mombasa Road. So I think it will be important for this committee, as they are seeking answers to the questions raised by Senator Naomi Shionga, to also get statistics on the number of people who are killed, so that it can be able to help build the necessary shock absorbers that we can be able, or temporary things that we can put in place to ensure that at least our citizens are safe. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Musuruve.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for giving me an opportunity to add my voice to this statement. Mr. Speaker, I would like to commend Senator Shionga for coming up with this statement. And Mr. Speaker, when we are talking of persons with disabilities, they're actually high-risk pedestrians. They are vulnerable pedestrians. And Mr. Speaker, the fact that even the blind are not able to see, it means that even when a vehicle is coming, they may not be able to see. And even when, a motorist hoots, they may not even be able to see where the vehicle is coming from, so that they can know which way to go. And even the deaf, Mr. Speaker, even for a hoot, they may not be able to hear. And those who are physically challenged, they have mobility problems, and they may not be able to walk very fast, Mr. Speaker. So, and that is why they are highly vulnerable. And I want to say, Mr. Speaker, that this is a statement that is coming at the right time, and it really needs to be taken into consideration for the purpose of ensuring that persons with disabilities do not get double disability, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
Senator Cheriot Samson, no, Cherargei, sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to support the statement that has been requested by Senator Shionga. Mr. Speaker, sir, when you look at Article 54 of the Constitution of Kenya, persons with disabilities, at Part 54(1)(c), it says to reasonable access to all places, public transport and information. And I think that article, the government or the relevant agencies must give an actual meaning to import that statement of ensuring that they can access in terms of transportation, in terms of access to any buildings or anything, people living with disability. And I think I agree that in as much as the Bill of Rights, there is progressive implementation to this aspect. We want to request the relevant agencies, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the rights of people living with disability are very important and very critical, and therefore we must give what we have. I know there are many challenges. The Disability Act that was passed before, now Article 54 that is in place with the Constitution of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, I think all agencies must be made as an obligation, because today, Mr. Speaker, we attended a session where the country is supposed to come up and ratify treaties that have been passed. And one of the treaties has been on the basic human rights including the people living with disabilities. And I think that is very critical for this country. We must agree that the rights of people living with disability should be respected just like any other human rights that we have in this country. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Senator Abdullahi Ibrahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank Senator Shionga for bringing this statement. Mr. Speaker, sir, pedestrians, even those ones who are normal, have a lot of problems. And in areas where they have these bridges, they are forced to climb those things. The bridges, some of them are old, others are young, they are alone. But what happens to those disabled people? At least in areas where they have footbridges, I think the disabled people should, those guys who usually harass the normal pedestrians, should be there to assist the disabled, those ones who are the blind, those ones who are walking with sticks, and those ones who are possibly on the properly disabled and on, what do you call them? The wheelchairs, yes, thank you. should be assisted to cross the road, and they should be able to support them from one end to the other. Because these people, even the policemen and the kanjos, don't do that job, Mr. Speaker. And in other areas where there are, pedestrians can cross the zebra crossings, or where there are schools and there are bumps, the motorists don't look and follow the law, and action should be taken. No, the police sometimes look the other side, Mr. Speaker. So I support this statement. Thank you.
Senator Malaki Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the chance to support this important motion. Mr. Speaker, it's very important that we realize that people living with disability are just as human and should be respected in all ways, such that if they have to travel, go to a house or cross a road, there should be amenities that enable them to do such a crossing or enter that particular building without any hindrance. Crossing streets is very hazardous for everybody, even for ordinary young people. It's even harder with people with disability and senior citizens, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, senior citizens also do not move as fast and should be considered as being disabled. And our motorists need to be trained to respect human beings. They need to be trained to respect people. When people are crossing the road, they should come slow and let the people pass. That, of course, would include people with disability and older ones. Mr. Speaker, there is technology out there. There is technology that can be put on the roads at zebra crossings. These particular technologies can talk to tell the disabled person, or it is now safe to cross. Otherwise, like Dr. Msuruve said, there are those who are blind, they can't see, or there are those who are deaf. Let's say the blind ones, they cannot know that it's time to cross. So they need something talking, saying, oh, it's now safe to cross. This way, we would help our disabled people to live normal lives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Franklin Linturi. I can see, okay. Senator Hargura Godana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm a member of the committee, the vice chair of the committee, but I'd like to thank Senator Shionga for the statement she sought, because it's important. We may have constructed our roads earlier without taking all that into account, but as we develop, we have to see how the relevant authorities are made to incorporate safety factors into the designs in terms of cycle lanes, pedestrian walkways, crossings, and also how those footbridges could be friendly to the persons with disabilities, providing not only the stairs but also the ramps, as they have done in most of them. Mr. Speaker, is an important statement, and we'll take it up so that at least we can get the necessary information from the relevant department, and also ensure that they take this into account in their future designs, because that is the way to go. We don't just construct roads without taking into account the fact that, especially in urban centers, majority of the road users are actually the pedestrians and not the vehicles. Thank you.
Senator Sakaja Ada.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Shionga has brought a very timely statement on the specific areas that she's talking about, one of which is in my county of Nairobi, on Mombasa Road, as well as the other areas in Nairobi, and I hope the committee will look at, Kakamega Webuye Road. But, Mr. Speaker, beyond that, what the committee should really seek to find out from the minister is that indeed in this country there already exists a KEBS building standard that is ISO certified. This building standard, Mr. Speaker, provides for a lot of these, additions that will cater for all categories of persons. Mr. Speaker, you've traveled around the world, and I'm grateful I've also traveled with you. In many places, you find that even if it's a pavement, that when you get to the crossing, First of all, the pavement is not, it ends with a slope or with a gradient. It is not just abrupt, such that it's almost like a ramp for those who are on wheelchairs to be able to, to use the pavements. Number two, they actually have some dots where if somebody is walking with a cane, they can feel that they've come to the end of the road and that this is a crossing, and their lights have a sound. I've seen some of the projects that Kura has done in Nairobi where you actually hear the beep of the traffic light to help those who have physical impairments, such as those who are deaf and those who are blind. Mr. Speaker, this standard exists, but the problem with us is that many of these things are just on paper. They have even specified the size, and Kenya must tell us, together with the ministry, because they're trying to implement bus rapid transit in this country. Will we have buses that have a specific width of a door and height from the curb such that those who are disabled can be able to get onto them? There are specified widths that are world standards that we have actually in our shelves that need to be implemented. When these projects are done, roads are not built for vehicles. Roads are built for people to be able to commute using either vehicles or walking or cycling. We want to see cycling paths, more of them. We want to see provision for pedestrians, who are majority of those who are using our roads in this city. So I'd ask the committee to go just beyond the 3 questions asked in this statement to actually interrogate the standard. Indeed, the buildings that have already been done, it is difficult to change the private ones especially. But any new approvals, and the county government of Nairobi should listen to this, and I'm sure the committee can engage with them. All new approvals should not be allowed unless they've actually taken into consideration all persons who are supposed to access those buildings. Finally, Mr. Speaker, as I finish, even this building we're in, even Parliament of Kenya, Mr. Speaker, in the last Parliament, when I was a member of the House Business Committee, we realized only when one of our members, Mheshimiwa Denita Gatti, got into an accident and she was physically impaired, we realized that somebody who has a physical impairment cannot even reach the first floor. And she stopped attending our meetings, and that is when lifts were then sorted out, etc. Let us think beyond just those who are able. Let's think of all the people who use these facilities in our country. The built environment really should give everybody space and dignity to be able to transact their business. Thank you, Senator Shionga, for bringing this statement.
Finally, Senator Mazayo Stewart.
Asante Bwana Spika. Bwana Spika, kwanza ningependa pia kumshukuru dada yetu Naomi Shionga kwa kuleta statement kama hii. Kwa sababu kila uchao, Bwana Spika, tunakuwa na ajali ndani ya barabara. Na hizi ajali saa nyingine hazifanywi na madereva, zinafanywa na ule ukosefu wa nidhamu wa kuwekewa alama za hatari kwenye barabara. Kwa hiyo tunasema hii sibaki ya Webuye na kule kwingine, bali katika Kenya nzima, palipo na milima, palipo na mabonde, palipo na mteremko, palipo na mto, pia waweze kuweka hizi alama zao za hatari, kwamba baada ya muda fulani utafika katika eneo ambalo utapata kuna daraja ama kuna mteremko ama kuna hatari ya aina yoyote. Kwa sababu Kenya hivi sasa ugonjwa wake mkubwa, ikikosa kuwa saratani, basi ni ajali za barabarani ndio zinatumaliza. Kwa hiyo Bwana Spika, ningependelea shirika hili ambalo limepewa uwezo wa kutengeneza barabara hii KENHA katika Kenya kuzingatia mambo kama haya. Hususan nikitaka kusema ni kwamba hata barabara ya kutokea Mombasa kwenda Kilifi, ukishapita Mtwapa mpaka Malindi, Mheshimiwa Spika, utaona ya kwamba hakuna alama hata moja, na barabara inajengwa na inapanuliwa, na hata kukiwa na mabonde ama kukiwa na mlima, na watu wamepoteza maisha yao mengi sana katika mlima wa Mbogolo. Kwa hiyo hatari kama hizi tuweze kujikinga nazo, na mimi namuunga mkono sana dadangu Shionga kwa sababu ya kuleta statement kama hii, lakini nataka ipanuliwe ili iweze kuangalia majukumu yote katika taifa zima la Kenya. Asante Bwana Spika.
Okay, Senator Isaac Mwaura. I don't see him in the house. Next order.
Order number 8, the Care and Protection of Child Parents Bill, Senate Bills number 11 of 2019, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide a framework for the care and protection of child parents within the counties, to provide a framework through which an expectant girl child or a child parent may actualize their right to basic education and at the same time ensure the care of their children and for connected purposes.
Next order. Order number 9 is deferred. Next order.
Order number 10, the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 2 of 2019, second reading.
Leader of majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to just order. So, Mr. Speaker, I take this opportunity, Speaker, to say, that the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 2 of 2019, be now read a second time. Mr. Speaker, this is a very important bill and a very straightforward bill. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Mr. Speaker, Constitution of Kenya 2010 is a very progressive constitution which provides for, Mr. Speaker, a people's-driven constitution. The Speaker, it provides for various institutions that deal with governance in this country, including matters related to delimitation of boundaries. May I say, Mr. Speaker, that I am a proud supporter and believer in the Constitution of Kenya 2010. And I had the privilege, when it was being initially drafted, when Professor Yashpal Gai had, Mr. Speaker, the Constitution of Kenya Review Commission, I worked as a program officer under the commission that time and traveled to places in Kenya, including somewhere in Mwakinyungu and Mwatate in Taita Taveta and many parts of Coast, to listen to the views of Kenyans, which were varied, Mr. Speaker. One of the reasons why Kenyans went for a new constitution is they wanted, Mr. Speaker, a working Bill of Rights. And a working Bill of Rights because, Mr. Speaker, it's important to have a system that protects rights of the people of Kenya. And a system that, Mr. Speaker, recognizes that rights are not donated by any individual, but given by God and protected by the state. Mr. Speaker, it was also important under our new constitution to deal with imperial presidency. Imperial presidency was the reason why we went for this new constitution. And the reason was we wanted to ensure that you have systems of governance that work, that will ensure that this nation, there is the power to determine what is constituency, what's a ward, Mr. Speaker, is not going to be donated to one individual who wakes up one morning, like it used to be in the KANU days, and say, want to divide this constituency so that we can donate to a friend. And Mr. Speaker, that is exactly what happened in many parts of this country, that there was gerrymandering, Mr. Speaker, of constituencies. And the story is given for Matioya, Mr. Speaker, where a particular constituency was created by President Moi to try to help his Secretary General. At least perhaps he was going to be elected. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, even after that creation of that very important constituency, the same person did not win it, somebody else won it. And Mr. Speaker, we created then a system of governance that ensures that boundaries of wards and constituencies are going to be, Mr. Speaker, left to be delimited in an organized manner using independent institutions. And so Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission is provided for in Article 88, whose responsibility includes the limitation of boundaries of wards and constituencies. In Article 89, Mr. Speaker, there is an elaborate mechanism within which, Mr. Speaker, these boundaries are delimited. And, Mr. Speaker, you will see that, Mr. Speaker, the constituencies, it makes it mandatory, Mr. Speaker, that constituencies are going to be 290, Mr. Speaker, and Mr. Speaker, that is cast in stone insofar as this constitution is concerned. Mr. Speaker, the constitution also provides that these constituencies can be reviewed, their boundaries can be reviewed, and in intervals of between 8 and 12 years, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, review of constituencies must be done 12 months before elections. And, Mr. Speaker, even where review is done, if it is done within the 12 months before elections, that review will not be applicable to the elections, subsequent elections. Meaning that if a review of our boundaries is to happen within 8 or 12 years, Mr. Speaker, that review must have enough time for citizens to be able to familiarize themselves with their constituencies and in preparation for the election of their leaders. So, Mr. Speaker, review of the boundaries are so many issues that have been provided for there. But there's one missing link when it comes to the question of boundaries. Mr. Speaker, what is missing is the participation of the elected leaders. It is the participation of the representatives of the people. Mr. Speaker, the limitation of wards and constituencies is such an emotive issue. It's such a sensitive matter. It involves, Mr. Speaker, moving a constituency from, say, Kakamega, Mr. Speaker, to Elgeyo Marakwet County, or moving a constituency from Siaya County, Mr. Speaker, to maybe to donate it to Lamu County, depending on the question of population, depending on the movement of persons from one part of the country to the other. Depends also sometimes on birth rate, Mr. Speaker. You may find that Turkana County has more population, or that the Turkana population has stagnated for reasons, Mr. Speaker, that would include maybe underdevelopment, maybe drought, maybe, Mr. Speaker, violence, or people might move from one county to another. And, Mr. Speaker, the report of census that is done, like the one that is done in this year, that, Mr. Speaker, that ultimately informs how many constituencies you are going to have in Narok, how many constituencies you are going to have in Nairobi, how many constituencies you have going to Mombasa, and then you are told that, Mr. Speaker, 3 people in IEBC will sit down, just like we go back to the time that we had an imperial president. 3 people or 5 people that were not elected by anybody, Mr. Speaker, will now sit down and say, this constituency can be moved from this place to another without, Mr. Speaker, a politically negotiated process that involves elected people, Mr. Speaker, from their constituencies and counties. And why am I saying this? Mr. Speaker, today, Murkomen may have a say in IBC. The commissioners who might be sitting there may have, Mr. Speaker, leaning to particular political persuasion, or, Mr. Speaker, may have an ear of a politically correct individuals. Mr. Speaker, that should not, Mr. Speaker, affect leadership of our country without being subjected to checks and balances and oversight of the legislature. And, Mr. Speaker, I am saying so, Mr. Speaker, because I like to persuade members of this House that, Mr. Speaker, number one, Parliament as a people's representative has a responsibility to ensure that such delimitation of constituencies and boundaries, Mr. Speaker, is a people-oriented exercise that people ought to participate, just not directly, but also through their people's representative. Number two, Mr. Speaker, that Parliament, with the responsibility of oversighting all institutions, Mr. Speaker, must ensure that they have oversighted set reports of counties, of constituencies and wards. Mr. Speaker, my presentation on this issue, and I have made it because I have caucused with a number of our members in this House. My submission on this issue is not in my capacity, Mr. Speaker, as Majority Leader. This is almost like, let's say, a private member's motion. And Mr. Speaker, the idea behind it is to ensure that, Mr. Speaker, we follow globally, Mr. Speaker, established practice on delimitation of wards and constituencies. And Mr. Speaker, I'm saying so because if you go to Germany, the German constitution, Mr. Speaker, provides that in the delimitation of constituencies by independent electoral district commission, Mr. Speaker, it is mandatory that votes of parliament, that the commission's report is tabled in parliament in Germany for approval. Mr. Speaker, in the United States, the question of determination of representation is dependent on legislation of Congress to determine, Mr. Speaker, the number of constituencies and how those constituencies are going to function. If you hear the word gerrymandering, Mr. Speaker, it comes from the vocabulary of American vocabulary on delimitation of boundaries, because it was about how political competition between the Democrats and Republicans plays itself in the Congress when they are determining which a number of constituencies are going to be available for the Congress itself, for the House of Reps, because the Senate itself, the senators and the Senate are established in the Constitution. If you look at the Constitution of Zimbabwe, Mr. Speaker, you will find that the delimitation of wards and constituencies report must be submitted to the President, who causes that report to be laid in Parliament within 7 days for purpose of that report to be, Mr. Speaker, debated in Parliament and approved by Parliament. If you go to Canada, Mr. Speaker, the Commission is also prepares a report which is sent through the Chief Electoral Officer of Canada to the Speaker of the House of Commons, who must ensure that it is tabled and referred, Mr. Speaker, to a committee designated with electoral matters. In the UK, Mr. Speaker, the Commission submits its report on delimitation of constituencies to the Secretary of the State, who tables the report for approval in the UK Parliament. Mr. Speaker, this is an established practice all over the world, that delimitation of boundaries is a very emotive and very sensitive matter because it has something to do with representation of the people. And so, Mr. Speaker, in my proposal for amendment, we are proposing, Mr. Speaker, that the IEBC itself, once it has gone through the process, the scientific process that is provided for in Article 89 of the Constitution, that their report, Mr. Speaker, is submitted to Parliament, and Parliament will give its recommendation. Mr. Speaker, the recommendation will be submitted back to the IBC, where they will now bring a final report that is going to be, Mr. Speaker, considered by Parliament itself. Mr. Speaker, this is important. This is extremely important. This is extremely important, Mr. Speaker. And I want to persuade senators and my colleagues in the Senate that, Mr. Speaker, you may have a full trust to say, let's leave it in the Constitution as it is. Let's allow IBC to do it the way they want. Mr. Speaker, it will be extremely irresponsible of us the day IBC will pronounce itself on movement of constituencies and wards and boundaries of wards and constituencies, that, Mr. Speaker, we shall remain as elected representatives of people to be helpless, that Senator Matsai will go back to Kilifi County and tell them There is nothing I could have done. We don't have someone representing us in IBC, and I didn't have a say in it. Mr. Speaker, the seriousness of the delimitation of boundaries in this country should make each one of us have this opportunity that I have presented to this House to debate this bill, Mr. Speaker, for the merits that it has. And Mr. Speaker, hopefully we can pass this bill, and Mr. Speaker, find ourselves in a situation where we will have a say insofar as how wards and constituencies are going to be delimited in our country. The reason why we have the type of constituencies we have at the moment is because political leadership were directly participated in the Legal Aid Commission that ensured that we have the wards and the boundaries that we have at the moment. So, Mr. Speaker, with those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, and with the presentation I have made, I would like, Mr. Speaker, to ask Senator to move this motion, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, considering the minority leader is not ready, I'd like to ask Senator Linturi, Mr. Speaker. Senator Linturi, who is the Vice Chair of the Legal Affairs Committee, Mr. Speaker, in the absence of Senator Kiika, was to move this motion, to second this motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to second this bill. I may be ambushed, but probably, Mr. Speaker, I may be able to say one or two things about the aspect of the limitation of electoral units in this country. Mr. Speaker, if my memory serves me right, the business of the limitation of boundaries in this country is a function of the IEBC. IEBC is an independent institution going by the constitution of this country, and some of the objects of independent institutions is to protect the sovereignty of the people of Kenya, ensure equity, fairness, and, Mr. Speaker, these institutions are not expected to be under the control of anyone. Mr. Speaker, I remember when we started the Katiba debate in the year 2010. I'm one of the members of parliament then that were very opposed to the current constitution, and one of the issues that we used to raise whenever we went for our no campaigns was that if people did not properly read and understand the provisions of Article 8, Sub-Article 9, that in the next cycle of the limitation of boundaries, the probability of loss of constituencies of electoral units was quite high. Right now, we are there, or we are where we used to people would get, and probably will not take us seriously. Mr. Speaker, if I have to live by the oath of office of protecting the Constitution of Kenya and ensuring fairness and equity, I am of the view that this bill is good. If there is need for us to participate in ensuring that whatever IMBC or proposals that come from IMBC have some bit of input from the political players. What I do not know, Mr. Speaker, is how we'll be able to cushion the IMBC or the report from the IMBC from being interfered with in terms of flimsy or in terms of failure for us to agree. Because in most cases you find that where a proposal is made that goes against the wish or the will of many politicians, and the same is subjected to the politicians. In most cases, politicians will not be able to agree. And I think this was the reasoning why we all thought that it was necessary to give independent institutions to use a criteria that is properly specified in the law or in the Constitution to come up with proposals that are acceptable to us. Mr. Speaker, I believe that before IMBC probably will come up with such recommendations, there will have to be some aspect of public participation, because public participation, consultation is very key in our constitutional architecture, and especially in view of what the Article 10 of the Constitution provides for. And with that, we will have an opportunity to engage and to discuss and agree. I would support this bill, Mr. Speaker, but be very clear from the beginning that yes, let us have IMBC making recommendations or going around collecting views and making recommendations. Let this paper come to us, or the recommendations come to Parliament for purposes of us looking at it and making comments on it, but I don't think it will be proper for us to have power to amend the report from the IMBC. Because if we were to do that, then we'll have so many amendments here to the extent that we'll not be able to agree. The last time the Naivasha draft was brought to Parliament, thank courtesy of the people of Wegembe South, I used to be a member of Parliament. And when the reports came here and we tried to make amendments to these reports, it was completely difficult. And that particular time, since we required quite big numbers, what was here, Mr. Speaker, is something that I would not want to see again. So, Mr. Speaker, I have not clearly read this, and as I said, I felt just very ambushed, but I would say that I support this, this proposal, that we should be, for purposes of information,
What is your point of information, Senator Murkomen?
I'd like to inform Senator, the second of the motion, that indeed he is right, to the extent that when the report comes to Parliament, you approve it or you fail to approve. It is not for Parliament to carry out the division of moving this constituency here or there or so forth. It's just that after the process has been done, it is to approve or not approve. Number two, Mr. Speaker, is that this is a constitutional amendment. The processes of how to reach the final, the details, Mr. Speaker, is now legislative. And it will require now, consequentially, you approve in Parliament by how much, which committee will deal with it, and all the processes as usual in the detail. This is, the idea here is to bring a report to the House so that the final report has the approval of Parliament. And either Parliament approves or fails to approve, but it is not their work to do the delimitation because the Constitution already provides for how IEBC does that delimitation process.
With that information, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill and wish that this is really done that within the shortest time possible, before we get to those areas whereby probably we may get polarized as a nation because of different political interests, to the extent that we would lose sight of the good, the good that this bill would bring to this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Senators, I now propose the question, which is that the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill, Senate Bill number 2 of 2019, be read a second time. Senator James Orengo.
Speaker, Mr. Speaker, mine is really a point of order. And Mr. Speaker, I want to beg the majority leader, although he spoke to me on this matter sometime yesterday, and I think he has spoken to quite a lot of members of the House. And Mr. Speaker, I rise on a point of order under Standing Order number 5 to propose that the debate be now adjourned, the debate on this particular bill. And I do it deliberately at this stage because the bill is now the property of the House. If I had risen during the mover speech or during the seconding of the bill by the Honorable Senator from Meru, I would have literally be calling for the killing of the bill, because I think there are very important recommendations that are being made on this bill. But, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to point out why I think we need a little discussion on this. One is a point that was mentioned by Honorable Linturi. If you listen to Honorable Linturi carefully, Senator Linturi, his arguments actually were not in support of the bill. If you listen to him carefully, he was at pains. That is because the Electoral Commission is an independent commission. It's one of the Chapter 15 institutions. And once it makes a decision, that decision should be final and can only be challenged in court. And that is why there's this provision under Article, the same Article 89, Sub-Article 10. And Mr. Speaker, I want us to read this carefully. It says, Sub-Article 10, which would follow Article 8, which is being amended. And then there's Article 9. It says, a person may apply to the High Court for review of a decision of the commission made under this article. Now, this article, this sub-article, read together with the proposal in Article 89D, 8D, Clause 8D of the bill, that the Commission shall publish in the Gazette the final report as approved by Parliament within 7 days of approval. So what would be challengeable in court is the decision of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. But in a situation where what has been gazetted is not actually the decision of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, but of an approval of the National Assembly. Because, this is saying that the Commission shall publish in the Gazette the final report as approved by Parliament. So, Mr. Speaker, what is available to any member of the public to challenge any of the decisions which are made under Article 89 will now not be available. And I think we need to have a little conversation over this, because we cannot amend, this bill cannot be amended. So I believe I'm saying this with all the goodwill. In fact, if I had read this bill before in my discussion with the majority leader, I would have tried to persuade him otherwise. But now that we find ourselves in this situation, I would rather that we suspended the debate and have more consultation, because the consequences of passing this bill go beyond what it looks like, that, any decision of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission should come to Parliament. I think on the face of it, there's nothing bad with it. Like many other reports come to Parliament for approval. But in this Article 89, the finality of the Independent Electoral Commission's decision is what is available for challenge in court. All the decisions they make under Article 89. Because Article 10 says a decision made by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission under this article, which is 89, can be challenged in court. Therefore, I really pray to the majority leader so that we are seen to be consistent with the Constitution. We suspend debate.
Leader.
We have a bipartisan discussion and debate on this before we come back to the plenary now to talk or to debate on this bill. I so move.
I need a seconder. Senator Oledama. What's your point of order, Senator Murkomen?
Mr. Speaker, I am not averse to the postponement, but it yields to nothing, Mr. Speaker. If it was a bill, you would say, if it was an act of parliament, Mr. Speaker, I'll need the attention of the Speaker on this.
Leader of Majority.
I'm just saying I'm not...
Order. Just some guidance. The motion has already been seconded, so I now want to propose the question, then you can speak to it after that. So, honorable senators, I now propose the question, which is that the debate be now adjourned. Senator Murkomen.
Mr. Speaker, I am not averse to the procedure being proposed by Senator Orengo. And by the way, I am also not averse to the fact that a decision can be made to defeat the bill. That I have no problem with that one, because that will be the decision of this House. It's not like it must pass by all means. Mr. Speaker, the only reason why, and I hope Senator Orengo and Mutula can listen to me on this, the only reason why that is important, that the proposal for postponement is neither here nor there, Mr. Speaker, is because this is a constitutional amendment. We can't amend anything. You know, Mr. Speaker, if people are saying we postpone for purpose of maybe reading and making up their mind and determining whether they want to make the contribution, it must go first on record that it has been in public domain for 7 months, for 8 months actually, yeah? Because the Constitution says 6 months, but it has gone beyond the 6 months, and I think it's 8 or 9 months since we first published this bill. So of course, we should have had enough time to read the bill. And I have no problem. We can postpone to say people can read it. Number two, Mr. Speaker, in my personal submission to the House, it must not pass. It's not like it must pass. And as I said, it is not a government thing. It is not a party thing. It's a Murkomen initiative to try to, foresee a situation where this issue will be coming to us in a year or so, and we have absolutely no role to play. The third and final, and Mr. Speaker, I am saying so with utmost respect to the independence of IBC, which has in the past been challenged by so many people in this House that they do not have faith in 1, 2, 3, 4 in the IBC itself. So, Mr. Speaker, if in the wisdom of this House ultimately they say we have 100% faith in IBC to make the determination of constituencies, because it will be a lie to say that IBC has exclusive responsibility on all boundaries. You know, in Article 189, it is us by 2/3 majority who determine boundaries of constituency, of counties. It's only that in terms of constituencies and wards, it was given to IBC without recourse to Parliament. If this House says we have the faith and belief and confidence in IBC, Mr. Speaker, I will gladly leave with Mr. Speaker with that decision, because I will have made an attempt to provide a solution so that when we sit here again in future, and some people here will be complaining and crying and saying, Mr. Speaker, oh, this IBC has done injustice in my county or in my area, and they should have consulted us, they should have done this. At least, as one legislator in this House, I will have acquitted myself by saying, Mr. Speaker, at least I tried to provide a solution to it. So, Mr. Speaker, while I have not, it is a standing order procedure that gives this House to make a determination. I just want to leave the House with two things. One, that I have absolutely no problem with a defeat of the bill. Two, that, Mr. Speaker, I have absolutely no personal interest in this bill passing by all means. The thing is, members must be able to go back to think about which other mechanism do we have a role. Just like we have a role in the question of delimitation of boundaries of counties, where shall we have a recourse to if tomorrow there is a report of IBC that doesn't have, Mr. Speaker?
Senator Orengo, what's your point of order?
I thought I was on a point of order.
Give information. I am still pleading. You know, counties, numbers and size don't matter. Counties can be as small as Lamu or as big as Turkana, irrespective of the numbers. But under the Constitution, Article 89 gives the framework for delimitation. The IBC doesn't have an open hand. They say you've got to look at the population, you've got to look at the size, and so on and so forth. So I just want to give my, my colleague the information that comparing it with the delimitation of counties is not the right comparison. But Mr. Speaker, now that he has said that he doesn't mind whichever way it goes, that one, I think now, it gives us the opportunity and space, you know, to discuss this thing a little bit informally. And Senator Murkomen, I've asked you, even when we were passing the electoral bills, I'd made the same comments. You provoked me to make some comments which have gone viral. I also ask you on this one also. Yeah, because when it comes to the debate, people may say certain things which may not be very good. So I'm saying, let us use a bipartisan basis and talk together so that we're informed as to why this thing is necessary. And then we can go into a debate.
Okay,
because you remember, Mr. Speaker, we cannot remember even when it went through public participation. And the people have not even seen the report from the committee. So I really beg my colleague that give us just a little space to discuss it informally, and we'll come back to support you on this particular one.
Okay, Leader, before you come, I just want to guide the House that the debate must be confined on whether to delay or not. Let us not get into the subject matter, because that one, a ruling has already been made. Senator Murkomen. What's your point of order, Senator Sakaja?
Mr. Speaker, thank you for your ruling. And I want to thank Senator Orengo for bringing this motion as we debate this bill. The clarification I would need, Mr. Speaker, from your chair is, and possibly from Senator Orengo, is what is the possible outcome of the delay? Because we cannot amend, even if we agree, because it has been published, even if we discuss and agree, we cannot amend this bill. And also Senator Murkomen has said that he's dispassionate about it. It is not a mandatory bill to pass. So what would the outcome of that discussion be? Because I agree, there are very deep feelings about this process, and many of us have been involved and would like to debate. Even if we choose that the route Senator Murkomen is taking, with this bill is not right, what we will do is to withdraw the bill, which is the same outcome as us defeating it at the vote. So the bill will either pass or be defeated either by vote or by withdrawing. So unless, apart from saving the time of the Senate, maybe the Senator Orengo can convince us on what he sees as the intended outcome of that discussion, having a deferred debate on this bill.
Okay, Senator Murkomen.
I think I understand Senator Orengo's position as to, so that people can read the bill, that they have time to interrogate and read it, yeah, and appreciate the consequence of that bill so that they can make a decision. I have no problem with that. Mr. Speaker, it is only not true that when it comes to population, I just wanted to put that in record, yeah? If it comes to population of counties and so forth, if you read Article 188 of the Constitution, in delimiting, even changing boundaries for counties, population is a factor, and demographic trends, physical and human infrastructure. It's possible, for example, in future, that Elgeyo Marakwet can expand its boundaries, if theoretically possible, to touch into another counties and move one county constituency to another county and so forth, theoretically. It's just that the process of Article 188 is different. My point is this, Mr. Speaker, my point is this. And as I said, when I spoke to as many people as possible in this House, I wanted it to be very clear that I am not sponsoring this as part of government or as a majority leader or as a party member or anything. I just wanted to be part, Mr. Speaker, and that's why I have no problem with a loss. I just want to, and I am saying this not with emotion. You can see I'm even happy that, Mr. Speaker, I just want to go on record that I was part and parcel of the people who tried to find a solution that involves the people's representative,
What's your
Mr. Speaker.
point of order, Senator Mazayo?
I thought I was on a point of order, but it's okay.
While I have a lot of respect for my colleague who is also a lawyer like myself, there is a precedent we have in our profession. When a senior counsel has advised, I think it is important to take it in that light, rather than trying to hammer it that you have no problem in it being adjourned. Then what are we doing? It's as simple as we are taking a bit of some more time where we would go into serious issues. That request, I believe, has been made by the senior counsel. And while he has not argued his point for us to agree, or he has not actually he has placed a bill here for us to have a look at it, I think let's give it a bit of some time to digest and think about it. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
What is your point of?
Question which has been raised by Senator Sakaja, that makes a lot of sense. And I don't think that was a point of order, that was a point of debate. If Senator Matsayo thinks it should be postponed, which I can see it is the mood in the House that it will be postponed, Mr. Speaker, you know, this House gives us the opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to say things for the record. And Mr. Speaker, we cannot start saying, there will be a record in this House in future, in our process of constitutional debate, that, Mr. Speaker, there are things we are saying so that it can be part and parcel of the record of this House. And so we are not just saying it for the sake of it, or we are not wasting time, or we are not eating into time for anything. We are doing debate. And as I said, Mr. Speaker, this process is critical because of the impending, Mr. Speaker, future or soon, or it ought to happen constitutionally within the next within 8 years from the last review, or 12 years, Mr. Speaker, which may not happen in these elections, may happen after the elections. But the thing is, the point I'm trying to raise, Mr. Speaker, is that bills are brought to this House for win or loss. And bills are brought to this House, Mr. Speaker, to convince each other on a point that, Mr. Speaker, like now some people are beginning to raise issues, I might ask myself and say, wait a minute, I was wrong. And by the end of all the debate and contribution of everybody, I might be among the people who even vote no. Because, Mr. Speaker, it's about convincing each other. It's about convincing each other and saying, yes, you had a good idea, but there is a better idea. And I have said this, I was making these comments, having accepted that, Mr. Speaker, Senator Orengo has proposed a postponement, and that postponement is important for people to appreciate the bill, do their personal research, come back with debates that can convince each one of us. Because there is no hurry. It's not like it must happen today. But if it also goes, it must go also on record, Mr. Speaker, that the bill has been out there for over 8 months. Yeah? It would be dishonest to tell the public out there that, Mr. Speaker, it's an ambush. It is not. Because the Constitution created a process that makes it clear that no one will ambush the people of Kenya when it comes to amending the Constitution, because it must be published in good time. So, Mr. Speaker, that's all I wanted to record, but I concede that members will need more time. They have not even seen the bill. They want to make them more contribution. Let them make those contributions. But I want to say it here. No one should come back to say, because in the other bills we have in this House, we've always had this comradeship of saying we must get 24. No one should feel that we must pass this bill by all means. No. We must make the contribution we are making on the floor of this House. Every debate and contributions will come here will be recorded for future engagements. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think you have made your point. Senator Petronilla.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also would like to support the delay of debate on this bill, because initially I had thought we want a report on the criteria to be used in delimitation. But I'm seeing like it is not just the criteria that we brought to Parliament, but the report on the alterations and even the naming of the constituencies. And Mr. Speaker, knowing Parliament and the politicians in Parliament, it will be almost impossible for that report to be passed, and we'll be taking IBC back. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, is to note that IBC is an independent commission, and there should be as little interference as possible.
Order, Senator. I did give direction that according to standing orders, you'll confine yourself to the delay. Don't get into the subject matter of the, otherwise I'll rule you out of order.
Okay, so Mr. Speaker, I withdraw the second point. So my first point still remains that I support the delay because I thought we were talking about criteria, a report on criteria, and not the beef of the delimitations. Thank you.
Senator Ongeri Samson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to say that the majority leader rang me asking for support of this bill. And I did mention to him, I've not seen the bill. I don't know the content of the bill, but when I look at it, I'll be able to then make further comments. So I'm stating the true position as of last night. I've looked at it, and I'm in support of the delay for the simple reason that although the argument is that it's been there in publication for 8 months now, it hasn't really come out very strong. First of all, I'm at a loss. First of all, whether the process of processing the bill we're going into, we have a legal department, a legal committee. I don't know whether that was gone into it, so I'm not quite sure of this. That's why I'm saying I'll move in and say we want to delay this bill so that those processes are gone into, because we have a committee that will eventually advise us on what it portends. I don't want to go to the main body of the bill, but what I'm seeing here is a potential contradiction of an independent organization that may put us into bad light. And before we rush into a debate, final debate of the body of the bill, I'll plead with the majority leader that first of all, let's be open on the table. Let's look at the pros and cons of this. And for me, as a senator for Kisii, anything to do with the delimitations or discussions of boundaries, I'll also need to make reference to the people who elected me back home, because they would have given their views, and I don't want to come to this Senate to scuttle the views of the majority at the county level, because it involves the wards. So as I said, I think there is a need to go back. Let's look at it again more afresh and look at the pros and cons of this bill and what it portends. And it's coming at the time when there is punguza mzigo on the floor. There is also, I don't know where the BBI is going to be when all these things come. Why don't we wait and be able to take all these things together in one and look at the offending clauses of the Constitution, which at any rate are due for review. I'm not against any review of the Constitution, because that's mandatory every 10 years. And I think since the last promulgation of the Constitution, it's the time now, 2019 is the time, it's 10 years down the road that we should be able to review this Constitution. But the process must be followed so that we don't offend the Constitution that we want to amend itself. Thank you.
Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr.
Thank you, Speaker. That famous clip by Senator Orengo happened at this floor when we were debating this same issue. This issue. And Senator Murkomen is aware. We objected strongly, and members, maybe you are not aware, the law was amended in this House to give the mandate of delimitation to National Assembly. And I said it was a mistake to remove this House from delimitation of wards, because they appear in counties. So in terms of what Senator Orengo is saying, it's important we look at that law, because it's the law now that the delimitation, once it is completed, will go to the National Assembly and will not come here. Yes, because Senator Murkomen, I told you it was a mistake to put the word National Assembly as opposed to Parliament. Now, your amendment seeks the same thing, only that there's a small little caption which has finality. So therefore, I'm proposing that all of us in the team should go around and look at it so that we don't end up in a quagmire. This issue of Parliament becoming the last resort and we cannot be questioned was also raised. Although Senator Murkomen called me about this, although there's no problem about the concept, there's just a little thing about the finality of that report that we must look at as a Senate so that we can help Senator Murkomen and the country in the question of delimitation. But that issue that Senator Orengo speaks so ably about was a law that we made here without thinking that is going to come to haunt us. It's going to haunt us. Thank you, Speaker.
Senator Mwaura.
Mr. Speaker, Senator Mutula raises very serious issues. And I think it is very important to do laws for posterity and also to be very seized of an issue so that when we legislate, we are able to stand up to what we committed the country to. I think what I hear from the House is that people are not seized of this matter, that we have not read the bill, and people are a bit apprehensive because it really speaks to the issues of representation. It speaks to the issues of how many numbers. And you know, gerrymandering is real in politics because this power can be abused by an incumbent to disadvantage you as a competitor. So I think it is important that it be deferred, but not for posterity, because also that delay needs also to be guarded. So, Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence that you rule for how long should it be deferred and what should happen during that adjournment, so that then there may be some consensus around what needs to proceed. And why am I saying this? Because if you leave members of parliament to determine the delimitation, it's like inviting leopards to decide, the case of goats. Why am I saying so? Because we are all interested. But also, to leave the IEBC to determine without any, oversight, it can also be used by the incumbents to have their way. So there must be some middle ground that maintains the independence, but at the same time ensure that there is validity from Parliament. And that is what needs to be found within the period through which, Mr. Speaker, you may guide the House as when this debate can resume.
What's your point of order, Senator Ramba?
Can I then suggest that we give the committee, say, six months or 1 year to go through the...
Order.
There's no hurry, Mr. Speaker.
No. Order.
I'm just requesting. It's a suggestion.
There is...
because Senator...
Leader,
yes, sir.
There are still more senators who want to contribute to it, so let's hear them out first. Senator Wambua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The majority leader was almost editing me out. The Speaker, from the onset, I want to say I support, we defer debate on this matter. Initially, I was convinced that it's a matter that we needed to debate. But listening to the mover, the majority leader, is so dispassionate about this bill that is actually almost anticipating a defeat of the bill. And I'm reminded, Mr. Speaker, that this same House debated and passed a bill by Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. on a review of county boundaries. And there's a bill then that was passed in the last parliament on constituencies and wards. The Speaker, there will be need for an informal sitting. And we'll actually be asking the majority leader to convene that informal sitting so that we align these bills and we assure that what we do today will not return to haunt us tomorrow. Mr. Speaker, I support the deferment of debate. Thank you.
Senator Abdullahi Ibrahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sincerely a bit confused here. The first time when I was informed about the thing, I was in support. But when I ask question now, if we delay, whether we delay or not, what difference does it make? If we delay it and we cannot change anything, why do we need to delay it? There is a problem here, Mr. Speaker, that I know members of parliament, as Honorable Maura said, are just like hyenas when it comes to constituencies. Each one of them wants to get a part. Whenever there's delimitation of boundaries, usually the IBC goes to counties. They go everywhere. People discuss these issues.
What's your point of order, Senator Mazayo?
Mr. Speaker, with tremendous respect to my colleague who is also a member of the Pan-African Parliament, is he in order to refer to the senators present in this House as hyenas? Are we hyenas? Is he in order? Can he withdraw and let it be expunged?
Senator Abdullahi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I did not say members are hyenas. I refer to a statement which was made by Senator Maura, who said that when you compare leopards and goats, and I said like hyenas when it comes to the delimitation of boundaries. But if that one bothers my good friend, retired Judge Senator Mazayo, I withdraw the word hyena. And senators or members of parliament or any politicians want to get involved with the delimitation of boundaries. And if we continue with that trend, I'm sure we will be in a lot of trouble as well. So that's why I said I am confused from the beginning. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll urge that we continue with the debate. Let it be, the bill be defeated, and then we go to Kamkunji, or we go have our own sittings and discuss that thing and come up with a new one, because we can't do anything with this one if we can't change it. And it's unfortunate if what Honorable Senator Mutula said is true. If we have removed ourselves from the bill or the limitation of boundaries before, and we have given that mandate to the National Assembly, whatever we do here, they are going to defeat it again. So are we not wasting our time? So let's just debate, argue about it, and forget about it and defeat the bill. That's my belief.
Senator Mbogo Ochilo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to say that I spoke to the majority leader yesterday. He told me about the importance of this bill, and I totally buy the notion that this is a very important bill. However, it's a constitutional matter that requires unanimity. It requires carrying along everybody. If the mood, as I see it, is that members want a little more time to work together with the majority leader, Mr. Speaker, that is a request that is not unreasonable and is a request that we all should support. Mr. Speaker, I have heard what distinguished Senator Dr. Ali is saying, that let us debate this bill with a view to defeating it. Mr. Speaker,
okay, let's consult in low tones, honorable senators.
Mr. Speaker, let us not encourage our majority leader to move a bill that we intend to defeat. I think this bill is likely to cure something, but we all need to work together. So it would be important for us to defer debate, consult, agree on what to do. If what we agree to do is not in line with what is being proposed, perhaps the bill can be withdrawn and amended in such a manner that it would carry all of us. We should not pass something that we are divided about, such that when it goes to the other house, we are ridiculed or we look ridiculous. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable senators, order. I now want to put the question, which is that the debate be now adjourned. As many of that opinion say aye. As many of a contrary view say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 12, the Establishment of Children's Homes Bill, Senate Bills number 12 of 2019, second reading.
Senator Zani is not in the house. Next order.
Order number 13, motion.
Senator Khaniri. I don't see him in the house. Next order. Resumption of debate. Senator Sakaja, resumption of debate. I can see you're still on mic. Okay, it's resumption of debate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, kindly, from the clerks at the table, since this is a resumption of debate,
Senator Petronilla, last time you are the one who was on the floor. Are you still keen to continue? You had some minutes left, please.
Madam Speaker, I had completed.
Yeah, that's okay. Senator Sakaja?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this is a motion that was brought before we went on recess by the Senator of Vihiga, for Vihiga, Senator George Kaniri, on a very sensitive and quite important matter, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this motion is about creation of support services for members of the disciplined forces and their families. He appreciates the commitment and sacrifice, Madam Speaker, that members of the disciplined forces have made in protecting our country from both internal and external aggression. Notes the risky and stressful environment that these officers, whether they're here stationed in this country, stationed all over the world, stationed where we're doing peacekeeping, the peacekeeping efforts where Kenya is part of, those stationed under the AMISOM umbrella in Somalia, etc., are really in risky and stressful environments, Madam Speaker. And they're exposed to these ones daily in the line of duty. And even locally, there are increased threats of terror and terrorism, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the motion also sees that indeed, even the families, not just the members of the disciplined forces, are exposed to this kind of trauma. They live in constant fear, debilitating depression, nightmares, crippling anxiety, thoughts of suicide, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and they're exposed to stigma of society and unable to take care of themselves. Madam Speaker, this motion calls upon the Ministry of Interior, in partnership with the Ministry of Defense, to establish counseling and support centers in all premises housing disciplined forces and provide mandatory counseling to all service personnel and the families of those currently serving and those who may have been killed in the line of duty. Madam Speaker, my thoughts are simple, because this is a matter that indeed my Committee of Security and Defense and Foreign Relations has tried to grapple with in the past. It is true that a lot of our officers, in fact, I think members, beyond just the counseling, really we need to actually, note that our officers go through a lot of stress and they're in an environment that, Madam Speaker, most of us will not survive. Yet, as a country for a long time, and as Parliament, we've not been able to give officers serving in the disciplined forces the dignity and the kind of life that befits those who put their own lives in the line for Kenyans. Whether they're in the military, whether it is police officers, whether it is administration, police, etc. If you look at the housing issues, they're not to the standard of those who lay their lives down the line, Madam Speaker. Even recently, we hear of police officers assaulted by leaders, by members of parliament, assaulted by members of the public. And yet we expect them to give a service that is not commensurate with our investment to them, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, I support generally, and this I'm putting for the record, that generally, I think it is very important for us and it's extremely necessary for us to actually think about the welfare of police officers in this country, military officers in this country, and all of those who indeed every day go out in the line of duty and put their lives at risk. We must think about them, we must consider them, because the state of their lives reflects directly on the state of our security as a country. Madam Speaker, moving to the specific provisions and prayers of this motion by Senator Kaniri, it is true, and I've interacted with very many officers who are either police officers who have dealt with a lot of, terrible situations, whether it is dead bodies, handling dead bodies, whether it is being in the line of fire, whether it is those who have come back from Somalia, etc. And Madam Speaker, you can see some, psychological or rather need for psychosocial support for these officers, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm glad that in some of our postings and some of our establishments, locally, some of the barracks, and I hope indeed most of them, do have a chaplaincy where these officers get spiritual guidance and support. But Madam Speaker, we're talking about more professional psychosocial support. Other countries do it for the officers, whether they're in battle or not, or whether they're just in their normal duty. We need to actually invest in that psychosocial support, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is to an extent that even their children sometimes who have lost their parents through this, their parents had been officers, Madam Speaker, have a certain psychological demeanor or disposition that suggests that either one, they're anti-government, or they become very cold and very, their response to certain stimuli from the environment can tell you this is somebody who is disturbed. This is somebody who indeed has been affected by either terror or by what their parents have actually gone through. So the families of these officers also need to be able to be getting psychosocial support. They need to be getting counseling. Madam Speaker, they need to have a call line that any officer or any family member can be able to call in. Madam Speaker, we need to tell our officers that yes, it is okay not to be okay, because many of them are suffering in silence, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have seen many cases of suicide amongst our police officers. Madam Speaker, we've seen many cases of police officers killing each other or killing members of the public, whether they call it a love triangle or they call it, whatever kind of disagreements. It points to somebody whose mental state at the point of executing such an action is not 100%. And Madam Speaker, this calls for concern. If we are not concerned about our officers, Madam Speaker, then truly we're actually walking on shaky ground, and on it is something that is a ticking time bomb in our country. We can talk about 100,000 officers, the ratio is going up, but are those people walking around with guns in a mental state to actually provide proper security because of what they are going through, because of the kind of welfare they are receiving, and because of the post-traumatic stress that they might be going through? Madam Speaker, we must support this. We must encourage our officers to speak out. I think our country really is the one place where over the past 3-4 years, we've seen the highest cases of homicide and suicide within the ranks of the disciplined forces. If this itself does not call us to a place of self-reflection as a country, that why is it that Kenya is ranking the highest when it comes to officers killing each other or killing loved ones or committing suicide, then, Madam Speaker, we're living in denial and we've buried our heads in the sand. We must actually confront this matter. The first is their welfare, and the second is that social support. I want to congratulate the church because of setting up chaplaincies in many of our barracks. I know, for instance, in the prisons, we have a chaplain, and we have churches and mosques where they go to. And I want to congratulate even the military for being able to put that in place. But our police officers, and remember, Madam Speaker, we have now said that we want to house our police officers outside the housing that had been provided earlier within the police stations. In Nairobi, I have a challenge. Many of my police officers cannot afford to stay near their stations. If you have a police officer in Kileleshwa police station, with the salary they have and the allowance you're giving them, they cannot stay in Kileleshwa. They have to go to the slum. If you have a police officer in Mudangari in Lavington, or in Hardy police station in Karen, or in Muthaiga police station, they are not actually able to stay within that environment of the station as was envisaged by this program, such that we have actually sent many of our officers to stay in the slums. When they stay in the slums, Madam Speaker, in Nairobi, one, they're interacting alone when they have returned their guns to the armory. They're interacting with those criminals who during the day they are chasing. What does that do to their psychology? What does that do to their own safety? When they go back and they say, you, we know you. We know what you did to our brother the other day, who was a criminal, so we're coming for you. What happens to their mental state, Madam Speaker? So we've actually sent our police officers into slums. We failed to actually achieve the goal of that housing program. The other day, Madam Speaker, I took my committee to Kima in Vihiga County. Just the border, the Kima market is the border of Vihiga and Kakamega County, where there had been killings in Kilingili. Earlier, there had been killings at Kilingili over 6 watchmen, etc. And one of the problems they said was housing. That indeed the police officers cannot, and the community had come together and put up a structure. But since this policy came, those officers have gone into society, and when an emergency happens, it is difficult to bring them together for them to be able to respond and to back up those who are doing it. So we must look at this. Secondly, Madam Speaker, are we paying our officers enough? Because if that officer cannot afford a house, he is staying in a shared accommodation together with another officer, or he's staying in one room, and in that room he is there, he has his children, he has his wife. Really, what kind of dignity are we talking about for our officers, for our police officers? We must actually work. Of course, we have a problem with our wage bill, but if there is something that is an essential service being provided in this country, it is security. We cannot talk about salaries of MPs and senators and ourselves, yet the salaries of police officers who guard us and guard this country are not taken into account, Madam Speaker. We must look at the welfare of these police officers. I am glad that indeed they have an insurance program, even within the military and the police, where today an officer who is, has a health problem or his family, they are being treated very well. They actually, it has improved. It can be better. It has improved, but we need to actually improve that. Madam Speaker, all of these things I'm talking about, all of them contribute to the psychological state, the mental state of our police officers. It must indeed be taken seriously. A police officer ideally should be somebody who's very happy. A police officer should be somebody who, when they're walking down the street, a child who is lost or somebody who needs help or direction will go first to the police officer because that person is smiling, he's happy, he's taken care of, and can actually give you directions or even help you out if you have a problem, Madam Speaker. But today the converse is true. If you drive in the morning as you come to work or wherever you are interacting with these officers, you're seeing very angry officers. You're seeing people whose disposition shows somebody who is frustrated, they have a problem, and something is actually wrong. And that reflects on their work, because then they will respond to the matatu drivers or to members of the public with that anger, with that disdain. And Madam Speaker, it ceases being utumishi kwa wote. We said that we're moving, and I think the wording of this should have been changed. We are moving from a police force to a police service. And for somebody to be able to serve you well, they need to be able to be in a good mental state and mental position. So, Madam Speaker, I support this motion, and I pray that indeed we'll be able to go to the nitty-gritty of the welfare of these officers, the stigma that they face, the amount of money they're receiving as salaries and allowances. I know recently some approached us as a committee on the matter of graduate officers. Of course, within the disciplined forces, there's a different way to look at how graduate officers actually get their promotion, and we're urging them to actually sit down with the National Police Service Commission together with the IG and their team to agree on that, but let them know that indeed as a house and as the leaders of this country, we actually care about their well-being, we care about their families, we care about their children. A child of a police officer, Madam Speaker, a child of a police officer must be guaranteed of education. A child of a police officer or of a military officer, a child of these people providing essential services to this country must be guaranteed of at least health care, education, and a roof over their heads. That's the basic. Any country that has developed, Madam Speaker, and I keep saying a country in terms of development is not measured, or the strength of a country is really not measured by the amount of money in its banks, in the central bank, or by the advancement of wealth, but by how they treat people like this, how the most vulnerable in society are treated, and how people who are offering essential services, people who are making daily sacrifices to that country are actually treated. In fact, before we used to call teaching and being a police officer or a military officer noble professions, because everybody wanted to be a teacher. You know, everybody wanted to be a military officer, not because you know, it is the only job that is left. Today, people say, oh, I didn't pass my exams, I didn't get an A, I didn't get a B, let me be a police officer, let me be a military officer. I think we must change that thinking so that we attract the best in society to go to our discipline forces, we attract the best in society to become teachers, etc. And that is how we will make progress. So, Madam Speaker, I thank Senator Kaniri for bringing this. We support it. And even as it goes on, Madam Speaker, our committee will actually engage with the leadership of the discipline forces, that is the military and the police, to find out, as well as the prison, to find out, as it is even before you pass this motion, what are you doing with respect to welfare of officers? How are you debriefing those who are returning from war, those who are coming from Somalia, those who have come from peacekeeping, and how are you maintaining a steady flow and a safe place where any officer, wherever they are, whether they're in Mandera, Wajir, Nairobi, Kisumu, etc., know that if they have any mental or psychosocial issue, they can go, they will not be judged, they can speak to somebody, they can get counseling, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Milgo Alice Korir.
Okay, thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this motion concerning our police service. Madam Speaker, these are officers that we always look up to, and they always put their lives in line for us, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I think the state of affairs in terms of their welfare issues, in terms of houses, in terms of salaries to this particular staff is actually a challenge. Many times, Madam Speaker, we do find that the police officers are sharing houses, a case where not one of us will be able to actually accept, or in this case, those same houses are in pathetic conditions. Madam Speaker, these officers are doing a great job in our country, and in most cases, I've even realized when we are traveling along our roads, sometimes when we have a lot of traffic jam, we would ask, don't we have policemen around this area? And once they arrive, I think we shall see some sanity. And in addition to that, Madam Speaker, issues of security, at the moment we are in problems with issues of security without the policemen, and once they are around, I will sleep and feel very secure. Madam Speaker, I think policemen have faced a lot of trauma, and this is a high time we need issues of counseling as well as centers, where in this case they'll be supported, or rather what we are calling support centers. If these centers were there, we would be assured of officers that are all the time having sound mind, so that they go to jobs every day when they are going to work, and in this case feel happy. Madam Speaker, these officers have faced a lot of anxiety, depression, and that is why there are many police officers that have lost their lives as a result of committing suicide. Sometimes we are treated to very many cases, even in newspapers, that police officers have shot their wives, and then they have even shot themselves because of actually experiencing a lot of depression as well as anxiety. Madam Speaker, these same officers at times, they lost their lives. And in most cases, we've heard of cases, even when sometimes they lose their lives and their bodies are never found. Therefore, we'll have the same officers suffering trauma, as well as their families, because of the fact that we've taken this service as very secondary. Yet, in this case, it is one of the most important service, rather an essential service in our country. In terms of enumeration, Madam Speaker, you will realize that these officers, and even those who have retired, normally retire very poor. And even in most cases, you come across people talking about police officers as engaging in some funny acts even along the roads. You'll forgive them for such because of the fact that the enumeration, nobody has ever looked at that properly. And I think the new service should be encouraged to actually look at their welfare, look at the housing issues, look at their salaries, and even look at issues of the centers that we are talking about, so that police officers, while they have been trained to be very hardy, they also have a human heart, Madam Speaker. And we are saying this is high time that this particular force should be assisted not only in terms of salary, not only in terms of housing, and not only in terms of actually looking at many of their welfare issues, but even in terms of looking at their counseling and areas where they can receive support services together with their families, Madam Speaker. Otherwise, this is a very important service that must actually be looked into, because our country needs policemen in all areas. Even us as members of parliament, we feel secure because we have policemen around us. Otherwise, I support this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Moses Kajwang.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I wish to support this motion that has been brought to the House by Senator for Vihiga, the distinguished Senator Khaniri. And Madam Speaker, the essence of this motion is to urge the House to agree that the nation should create support services for members of the disciplined forces and their families. And Madam Speaker, this House operates through various instruments, and it's through these motions, through bills, and through other resolutions of the House. We have seen in the past when members bring their motions and they're debated upon, and a lot of detail goes into those debates, we find certain challenges in implementation. And I do hope that this is one of those motions which, if the House do agree with it, will find favor in the eyes of the implementing agencies, and that they will be able to implement it as fast as possible. Madam Speaker, the issue of implementation of motions of this House is an issue that my committee of the Public Accounts Committee has been grappling with. And we have realized that the law provides that an accounting officer or any person with responsibility to implement the resolutions of Parliament must do so within 3 months, failure to which Parliament has been given powers to undertake any action, be it administrative, be it punitive, or be it recommendations for prosecution. Madam Speaker, this is important because in the life of this Parliament, there are very many motions we have passed. I remember there was one very lovely motion that we passed in the very first Senate that was to ensure that the National Youth Service is devolved to counties, and so far that has not been achieved fully. Madam Speaker, coming back to the content of this motion before us, our disciplined forces play an important role. They enable us to sleep soundly at night, knowing that the environment that we sleep in, knowing that the borders of our countries are safe and secure. If it were not for them, then we would still continue with the practice that our forefathers practiced. Madam Speaker, in my father's house, when we were growing up, he always had a spear in a corner and a simi somewhere and a bow and arrow somewhere because they had been brought up to believe that they had to defend themselves. But with advancements and the professionalism of our disciplined forces and security forces, it has become less necessary for us to sleep with spears and clubs under our beds. In fact, those who still maintain those archaic weapons under their beds, they don't use them against thieves and other vagabonds. Some end up using them on their domestic spouses. And I want to say, shame on you, those men who convert the use of those spears and rungus and bows and arrows as instruments of domestic violence. Our forefathers kept them in the house to deal with external aggression. And now that we have a very professional and a very disciplined security service, particularly those that protect our borders, I believe that we need to invest more trust, invest more resources in making sure that these disciplined forces are able to undertake their duties. The history of neglect of our disciplined forces is as long as the history of this republic. It is on record, and it is a fact that no one can refute, that those people who went to the forest to fight for land, particularly in the areas in this republic where the white man appropriated land without compensation, what we call the Kenya Land Army, those that operated in the forests around central Kenya, in the Aberdares. When finally we got independence, Madam Speaker, The fighters who had gone to the bush were the first to be ignored by the post-colonial government. Madam Speaker, some of them went back to the bush and died. Some of them died in abject poverty. When the sons and daughters and grandchildren of home guards, those that were siding with white people in this country to give land to the white at the expense of the Africans who are indigenous and the natives, it is the home guards who benefited. Those people who formed what you can call the original army of this republic that was fighting against the land invasions, they suffered. And not just in Central. If you go to Rift Valley, Madam Speaker, the Nandi clan, the Talai of the Nandi, put up a spirited fight against land grabs in their respective areas. For their efforts, the Talai were exiled. Some were sent to Mfangano Island in my county. Others were sent to Lambwe Valley, where Sesefly was supposed to have killed them. Others were sent to all sorts of inhospitable places. We have always paid members of our disciplined forces with a very bitter pill, because when they fight, when they protect us, when we are secure and healthy and strong, we take everything that they've fought for and leave them with nothing. Madam Speaker, it's not only about the material benefits that should be given to these members of the disciplined forces. They are the support structures that they need. Very recently, I visited the United Kingdom. And when we went to London, we met a Kenyan who has been there long enough to serve in Her Majesty's Army. And this Kenyan took us to a hotel facility, a club that Her Majesty's government has set aside for veterans and members of the disciplined forces, those who have come from war, those who have retired, and those who are in active service. Madam Speaker, when you go there, you can get accommodation at very subsidized rates. You can get meals at very subsidized rates. And if you've ever been in the disciplined forces, you become a member of that club for life. And we saw people who are veterans of Iran, of Iraq, people who are veterans of Kuwait, people who are veterans of the wars in Argentina, and even those who fought in the world wars. What they do, they come there, and they've got all these range of support, psychological, physical, and material support. The old-timers, they come there just to read newspapers and touch base with the people that they fought with. Unfortunately, in our republic, I am not sure whether we have such facilities that are dedicated to those who have also sacrificed their lives and dedicated their lives to the protection of this nation. Madam Speaker, this motion should have actionable recommendations that those who are required to implement should then follow up with immediate effect. We have our brothers and sisters who are in Somalia. And Madam Speaker, before this country decided to sit on one table, and before we agreed to discuss as brothers and sisters who are bound by the territory of the republic called Kenya, some of us used to ask questions about the viability of the war in Somalia. Madam Speaker, let the handshake not make us forget. Let it not create amnesia on the fact that our brothers and sisters are out there in Somalia. Let us ask ourselves, what is the cause for which we are fighting in Somalia? We have been there for tens of years. We have lost hundreds of lives. We are not saying that we need to coil our tails and run back to Kenya and say that now we are coming back to Kenya the way the Americans did when they came to Somalia. No, Madam Speaker, it is important that we objectively, and we as Parliament, the representatives of the people, find a framework for examining our effort in Somalia, for examining our gains, to do a balance sheet, to do a liability and asset kind of assessment. I believe there's a framework for doing that in warfare, so that we can know that all these years that we've been there, what has been the net benefit to Kenya? What has been the net loss to Kenya? And bottom line, is Kenya benefiting or is Kenya losing? Because every other day, we come from those rural constituencies, and Madam Speaker, sometimes we bury our brothers and sisters without seeing their bodies. There have been cases, and I've been involved in quite a number of them, where you find that your cousin in the village who joined the KDF and went to Somalia, there was an ambush, and definitely when you sign for war, such things happen. And you find sad situations where a mother has to bury a son, has to bury ashes, has to bury just a small piece. And Madam Speaker, that's a cost of war. That's what we sign up for. That's what these disciplined forces, members of these disciplined forces sign up for. But Madam Speaker, what then is a benefit? What then is a gain for the nation? What then is a gain for the society? For that mother who was to bury a finger of a son, who was burnt up in an IDU attack somewhere in Somalia. How do we sell the benefits of that continued engagement there? Because, Madam Speaker, this country, our disciplined forces, are very well trained, are very highly trained. We know them. They are our brothers and sisters. If you are looking for some of the best medical professionals, they are in the armed forces, they're in the disciplined forces. Some of the best engineers are there. Some of the best IT persons, Madam Speaker. The internet was an invention of a defense agency. It was called DARPANET. It was a defense agency in the United States that created the internet that we enjoy today. Why can't we, instead of keeping our disciplined forces in a constant state of waiting for war, in a constant state of waiting for aggressors, why can't we also engage them in other nation-building activities? I'm talking about engineering feats, Madam Speaker. There are things you have seen even in counties. Recently, we went to Kwale County. We found Kwale County had been trying to build a stadium for the last 4 years. And, Madam Speaker, it's not rocket science to build a stadium, to plant grass, and to have some benches where fans can be there. But year in, year out, budgets are being committed. They are not being utilized. They are being diverted. 4 years down the line, they are still talking about a vision. If we took the National Youth Service and deployed them there for 6 months, I'm pretty sure that they'll be able to complete that job. We have seen even at the ports where private contractors quote astronomical figures to do civil works. And when we bring in members of the NYS or members of the disciplined forces, they quote a far much more reasonable amount that then provides value for money for public resources. Our neighbors in Tanzania have now resorted to using the expertise in their disciplined forces to get some of the public projects going on, because they've realized that if you leave it to contractors, you'll have all sorts of cowboys whose job and whose responsibility and desire would be to inflate prices, and those projects will never see the light of day. Let us engage our disciplined forces so that by the time they retire, by the time they opt to leave the disciplined forces, they have some hands-on skills, they have real-life skills, they've gotten to a level of integration where they will not find it very difficult to live with other persons. If you have a very good doctor in the disciplined forces, a very good engineer, a very good lawyer, because they have all professionals there, let's engage them in some important aspects of nation building. And that way, they will integrate better. That way, they will be accepted better. More importantly, Madam Speaker, is the psychological effect of warfare and the psychological effect of the activity that these men and women do on behalf of this country. Many of us will shudder at the sight of blood. Many men do not go to the theaters where their wives are delivering because of issues of blood. Indeed, Madam Speaker, there are men who shut down business 4 or 5 times a month because of issues of blood within the domestic setup. But these are people who live with blood. These are people whose business and day-to-day business is about bloodshed. And they do that not as an end, but as a means to ensuring that our borders are protected and we are kept safe. That has psychological implications. Today, we woke up on reports that a member of the police force killed a little boy in one of the slums here in Nairobi in a very unprovoked situation. And that story that we woke up to also has details of other members of our disciplined and security forces, some whom have had to take their lives out of frustration, some whom have had to take the lives of others as a result of poor psychological grounding. Madam Speaker, it is important that even as we talk about mental health, in accordance with the bill that we passed here, that was brought here by Senator Sylvia Kasanga, as we are talking about mental health, we need to ensure that there are dedicated units to cater for members of our disciplined forces and members of our security forces. Because what they go through, any of us here, any other lesser person might not be able to survive. I want to finalize by hailing the professionalism with which our disciplined forces have conducted themselves since independence. If you read the story of Africa, every other country the military and discipline forces have been involved and have been a factor in the politics of those countries. In Kenya, that has not been the case. Madam Speaker, I spent quite a few years in a neighboring county. And in that county, if you are in that country, if you are a captain in the army, then you're even more powerful than a member of parliament. Because the army is so entrenched in the politics and governance of that country. To our credit, our disciplined forces have allowed civilian rule and have allowed civil liberties to flourish in this country. And Madam Speaker, I don't think it was just by autopilot. I believe it is because of the dedication of those who have had the opportunity to lead our disciplined forces from independence to date. There were many cases where there were temptations by the leaders of our disciplined forces to join politics. If we had to learn from Nigeria, where there have been coups and counter-coups, then our disciplined forces, they were not short of examples. They were not short of examples even in our neighboring country of Uganda. They were not short of examples in our neighboring country of Rwanda. They were not short of examples in Somalia. But they kept their head high, they remained focused, and they've allowed us, Kenyans, to have one of the most liberal environments. Madam Speaker, there is one time in the last parliament, for those of us who were there, at a state event where the head of state was present, the chief of staff of the defense forces was present, the entire top brass of our disciplined forces, including the police and the other civilian security apparatus, were present. Madam Speaker, we exercised our right to protest and picket in parliament. And it was called the Firimbi moment. We blew whistles, we carried placards in that house. And yet, at the end of that day, I was able to go to my house and sleep soundly. No one followed me. No one threatened me with arrest. There was no drama, not like the drama we have been seeing of late, Madam Speaker, where for once there is peace in Kibra and there is disquiet in Moranga. Madam Speaker, we also, as political leaders, we need to ensure that the way the disciplined forces have been disciplined to ensure that they stick to their lane, politicians in this country must also stick to their lane. I don't know what benefit we get by going back to the days of chaos that we saw pre-election and post-election. Madam Speaker, there is no value in this country when a television station with national circulation and viewership spends 10 minutes to show the entire country fires being lit in some dark alleys in Moranga. There is no value when a television station decides to focus on a small group of young men and women who have clearly been organized and mobilized to demonstrate and to cause chaos, and then project it as a crisis of national importance so that the nation can take note. Madam Speaker, those are kind of things that incite people to violence. I am so glad that in the city of Kisumu, despite extreme pressures on the business community, the demolition of business structures along the lake, the demolition of business structures along the railway line, that people have agreed that they can find a way of dealing with these issues amicably, without derailing rails, without uprooting roads, or without causing violence. I am so happy that despite the political situation in Kibra constituency, where the political parties are now fighting for succession, that we have seen that things can be done peacefully. In fact, there are people who are disappointed that political parties can hold nominations in Kibra without violence, without threatening to derail the railway that passes through Kibra. We are not supposed to be seeing some of these scenes of fire that we were treated to last night, Madam Speaker, because this country, we have reached a point, our disciplined forces have done their bit, our security officers, even though sometimes they step out of line, they've been able, by and large, to remain civil and organized. Madam Speaker, when I gave that example of the situation we had in Parliament when the President was present and we had demonstrations in that house, it goes to demonstrate that we've got a mature security apparatus, we've got a mature disciplined forces, because if it was another country, where you'd embarrass the President and whistle and do catcalls and carry placards in Parliament in full glare of the entire Republic and in full presence of the entire security apparatus, Madam Speaker, that night probably I would have had to find a safe house to sleep in. I would have either been taken to a safe house by the state, or I would have looked for a safe house for myself. And it is credit to our disciplined forces and our security apparatus that on that night we were able to go home and we spent a peaceful night with our wives and with our children. And I want to encourage them that despite all the irritations that are coming up in the political space, that we should hold that kind of approach to civil liberties. Let us not run after members of parliament with 50 members of the General Service Union. Let us not use a hammer to kill a flea, because in that way we are inflaming situations, we are inflaming passions, and we are creating a situation that this country is burning and that this country is on the wrong path. I believe that this country is on the right path. The disciplined forces have done their bit. They've stuck to their lane. They have avoided coup d'etats in this country. They have provided a conducive environment, despite us having pressure along all our borders. And Madam Speaker, we must congratulate these people, because if you look at the northern border, we have issues in Sudan, South Sudan, we have issues in Ethiopia, we have issues in Somalia.
Thank you. Senator Eric Okongo Mugenyi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I also rise to support this very important motion that has been brought by our good friend, Senator Aniri. Madam Speaker, I first want to make an observation that this is action that is long overdue, really, from our government. Madam Speaker, if you visit many other jurisdictions, and I was privileged one time to visit a hospital in the US, in the state of Texas, where my sister works, which is dedicated to serving members who have retired from the military in the US. And Madam Speaker, world over, it's known that it's not easy to serve in disciplined forces. Oftentimes, due to human error, you can cause deaths of so many people without it being a deliberate act. Madam Speaker, you remember that even the armed forces of the United States who served in Afghanistan, there's a day I remember when, due purely to human error, an Air Force pilot bombed a hospital. And he was shocked to learn later that what he actually thought was a target, an enemy target, was an hospital. And he ended up killing innocent children, pregnant women, sick old people. You can imagine when you retreat back to your house and you are watching on TV that it's your action that has caused that kind of pain to innocent families. And these are people who are not aggressors. These are not people you who are targeting, but purely because of human error. You have caused death of so many lives. Madam Speaker, those are the kind of situations I think this motion is trying to address. In serving in disciplined forces, there are occupational hazards, Madam Speaker. And I want to even take us back to what happened in 2007. I mean, we saw Kenyans who are trying to exercise their democratic right of picketing and demonstrating, but at times we respond with force that is excessive, and you end up killing innocent people. I remember there are a number of Kenyans who are serving in disciplined forces who found themselves charged in courts of law. And just that baggage that you carry for the entire of your life, that you have caused deaths of innocent Kenyans, haunts you, even when you retreat to your family. And in this era where we have cross-cultural marriages, even your own spouse may end up putting you to task, asking, why did you do this? These are situations that require that we as a country put in place measures that ensures that we have enough counseling measures for people serving the armed forces. And I think, Madam Speaker, President Moi was a very wise president, despite some of his negative things that he did in this country. Remember, it is Moi who came up with the schools that were dedicated for people who are serving in armed forces. Why did Moi do so? It's because, Madam Speaker, you can be sent out of the country
And when you come back, you find that even the children you left behind never went to school. But Moi said to take care of these kind of situations, let us establish Moi Forces Academy, a very good school that was serving members of Air Force in Isili. In terms of hospital, we have the Memorial Hospital, I think on this, along Mbagathi. But after Moi exited power, I've not seen any initiative for us coming up with, mechanisms that are meant to ensure that we have, some facilities that are dedicated to the care of people who have served in the armed forces. I think what this motion now seeks is to extend these services to residential areas where people who serve in armed forces reside. And these are very good motion. Madam Speaker, you'll be surprised even people who serve in armed forces don't enjoy the normal lives that we live in. Look at the foods that they eat. I was talking to a friend of mine who had been sent to serve as in a UN keeping force. And he told me that for the entire period he was there, he forgot about ugali. He was surviving on some biscuits, water, energy drinks. That in itself is something that can cause a lot of stress to any human being. And Madam Speaker, let's also be cognizant of the fact that the people we send out to serve in missions outside are young people. These are not people who have been used to these hardships. You get people are recruited at the early age of 20s, and by the time they are 25, they are the ones who are enlisted and sent out of the country, away from their spouse. You can imagine somebody staying out away from a spouse. They have just married for 3 years. And when you come back, you don't know what you will expect. So when you come back and you find surprises, Madam Speaker, you need counseling. That's why we are seeing increased cases of people resulting in suicide. And we don't want to lose people who have volunteered to serve our country. And they play a very important role. Madam Speaker, stress is a killer. If in many schools today, you go to many schools, you will find they have employed people who are doing counseling for our children. And these are just kids who are going to school. Maybe what is stressing them is a parent who has failed to buy them a phone, a parent who denied them a chance to go to watch a movie over the weekend, a parent maybe who has told a child, I will not allow your friend to visit. But because of that, we employ counselors. There are dedicated counselors in many schools for our children. Now, what about people who serve in armed forces? You can imagine a situation where 2 pilots leave Isili Air Base on duty, and you greet your colleague, you say, let's go do our job and come back, but one of you doesn't make it back. That leaves you with a lot of trauma. Because you ask yourself, what could I have done maybe to save my colleague? The kind of occupational hazards that our policemen, people serving the military face really call for a dedicated service that can offer counseling to them. Then in this era of terrorism, they are exposed to so many risky situations every day. Most of the spouses of these guys, they keep bidding goodbye to their husbands or wives. Because when they leave in the morning, of course, even all of us, nobody is sure that you'll go back home. But for them, it's a situation where there is anxiety, there is worry for their spouses, day in, day out. So this idea of saying we extend this counseling to members of the family members of people who serve will serve a very useful purpose. And I will propose, Madam Speaker, that this should even extend to the children. We know what happens when some of us, you are away from home for a week. When you come back home, you get questions from your children. They want to know where you are. Why did you decide to be away the whole week? Now you can imagine a young father, a young mother who is forced because of duty to be away from home, maybe for 2 years. what do you expect of that family, the young children? They will be exposed to a lot of stress. And if these services are extended to them, they can be counseled to understand the nature of the work, the parents, so that we don't also mess the families of people who serve in our discipline forces. Madam Speaker, suicide is something that is preventable. But if not handled well, it is something that can cause death within a minute. And it does not have any medicine of painkiller or anything. It just needs professional counselors to continuously engage people who are exposed to some work that can expose them to some stress or some trauma or some depression or some form of nightmare. So I think let's accept as a country that these are people we need to take special care of. We need to have counseling and support centers in areas that house these people. Madam Speaker, I was talking to a friend, and I don't know whether that is true, but I'm told that if you are sent to areas where there is winter, it may even call for a situation where you are subjected to some form of treatment, in quotes, where some injections are administered to your body so that you can cope with the temperatures. And these things have side effects on these guys. If it is extremely hot, you are doing temperatures of 35. If you watch TV, even people are serving in areas where temperatures 35, you will see them in those compact gears. While if you go there, you cannot manage with a light jacket like what I'm wearing. And these things have side effects. You go to a place where temperatures are 40, you are injected, you stay there. For the time you are there, things are okay. But when you leave your station of duty and come back to Nairobi where the temperatures are 19, there are serious adverse effects on your body. And nobody cancels these guys. They just come back and they find themselves in a situation where their bodies are reacting, they go to their homes, they are not able to behave normally. And it's not that they have done anything that is wrong. It's because in serving this country, they have been exposed to situations that make their kind of work to be risky and out of the ordinary. Because it's not normal for anybody to be sent from here to maybe Morocco, and you are told before you go for duty there, as a senator, we'll do some injections. But for them, these things happen. I'm saying all this, Madam Speaker, to demonstrate that the kind of work that people in our discipline forces do exposes them to so many situations that can easily trigger depression and stress. And if we don't manage those kind of situations, we have cases of suicide, which we really don't want. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I support.
And finally, Senator Cherarke Samson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the motion on the creation of support services for members of the disciplined forces and their families. This motion has come as timely because Kenya, under President Kibaki, did go to Somalia through a program called AMISON, African Mission in Somalia, to try and bring stability and ensure that Kenya and Horn of Africa is safe and secure, and also lives and property are being protected. And it has been many years. Madam Speaker, I happen to have one of my brothers in military service, and he has been there, and luckily enough, he has not met any casualties while in Somalia. But there are so many families, Madam Speaker, as we appreciate, even in your county, Kisumu, as well as many counties, especially when Alade and other bombing happened, we have buried many young people, many young, even just below 30 years, because of terror attacks while on their line of duty, especially in Somalia, and other missions abroad of protecting and bringing sanity across. And we appreciate that Kenya, Madam Speaker, is one of the critical partners in terms of being used as missions to provide stability across the world. And that one is very critical in terms of ensuring that we have a stable, secure society. Madam Speaker, according to some statistics, although the government is yet to confirm, there are many deaths that have occurred, especially our military officers that have lost their lives, especially from Kenya. More than 60 of them have died in the line of duty. And it happened coincidentally, most of them have been from Nandi County. I can't really recall the number, but it's the casualties have been very many. And when you go there, Madam Speaker, it's so sad because they say in time of peace, it should be the sons burying their fathers. But in times of war, it is the fathers who bury their sons. So it is always very sad. They leave young families, young wives, very young children, toddlers that are barely even into nursery school. And therefore, Madam Speaker, you can imagine the trauma that their spouses, their immediate family members, their friends, the community go through until when you are in such funerals, Madam Speaker, you have a feeling that many young people are no longer willing to be part of the people who would want to enlist themselves to be part of the military in this country. Madam Speaker, I agree that counseling is very important. And I remember as a committee of legal affairs, we have been working also to establish trauma and counseling centers over Solai Dam tragedy, which is ongoing. And the Red Cross have been of very great help. And we hope the Ministry of Defense, through Madam Rachel Mamo, will be able to effect some of these changes of providing counseling to the spouses and the members. And even, Madam Speaker, in some countries, these are people who have undergone, as my friend Senator Okongo Mugeni has said, these are people who are in line of duty. They see their colleagues dying. Some others are injured, others when they come back, Madam Speaker, they can no longer, it becomes a psychiatric problem. And I think counseling or having trauma centers and ensuring that these families that they have lost these great heroes and soldiers in the line of duty should be given an opportunity to be counseled, to be taken through a process. And let us stop, because this country, our memory as a country is very short. We have seen many tragedies, we have seen many issues that have happened where the government, like the famous Ethiopian air crash that killed 32 Kenyans and more other citizens of the world, you realize that the government need provide only counseling for a period of time. So it would be very important that counseling should be a process that should be done within a period of time. It is not just when somebody passes on or they die in line of duty as a soldier. You organize maybe for 1 month for that family to be counseled, because there are many things that runs around the spouses and the family. So, Madam Speaker, I want to say this is, and we have seen even in cases, if even ordinary Kenyans are committing suicide, even anywhere because of other issues, what happens with somebody that has seen colleagues, has seen friends, has seen people fighting, they have seen losing their legs, they have seen blood, they have seen anything. You can imagine the horror that such people go through. So we propose that when a soldier dies in line of duty, and these are our heroes, we should celebrate them. Their family and immediate family members should be taken through a rigorous and elaborate counseling session. Secondly, in case when some of these heroes come back home after serving in their mission, especially like Amazon in Somalia, they should also be taken care of so that it has not become a psychiatric problem in their lives. Madam Speaker, and even as we talk about counseling, the government, I know there are support services of monetary support. We should also ensure that, part of the stress that you see Kenyans undergoing through, Madam Speaker, coincidentally is because of stress of hard economic times. So even as we counsel these soldiers, we counsel their families and everybody else that has been involved in this process, we should also the government should provide more monetary support to these families. And we are happy that the police nowadays and other disciplined forces, that the insurance cover is nowadays being processed, so that when you die in line of duty, the health insurance cover should be provided for your family, so that your family does not suffer or they don't go back to poverty. At least the children who are ongoing in the schools. And I want to propose, Madam Speaker, and I hope the mover of the motion will be able to check the answer, is that some of these soldiers who have died in line of duty, fighting the terror that would have caused havoc in this country, the government should provide a system of ensuring that their children should be put on a bursary program for the entire time until they reach university or college, Madam Speaker. That's how we can. Even if we cancel these spouses and the children, and these are children of 2 years, after we have left, there is no monetary support, they don't go to school, the vicious circle of poverty will continue, Madam Speaker. And I think that is very important, Madam Speaker. The third point, Madam Speaker, to underscore counseling, this counseling should be made part of the health cover, so that we can ensure, Madam Speaker, that even if you look at how they manage veteran affairs in the US, other countries, they have a specific docket that deals with the welfare issues of the veteran soldiers. And therefore, even as we provide for the health cover while in active duty, that cover should extend at least for their immediate families and their spouses and their children, so that even when we make counseling as part of a card, we provide card through the NHIF, we provide through the insurance cover, so that the family, Madam Speaker, can walk to any hospital, be it Kenyatta National Hospital, be it Kapsabet Referral Hospital, Oginga Odinga General Hospital in Kisumu. They can work with their card and be able to be given those counseling services. And I think, Madam Speaker, that would be a very critical issue that we need to look at. Finally, Madam Speaker, we need also to ensure that even as we go for these missions, the people who go there attend, you know, their priests, their pastors who accompany them. We hope also, Madam Speaker, we should also ensure that counseling services is taken to AMISON, for example. The Kenyan government, through the Ministry of Defense, should be able to establish a counseling and trauma center. I know it is already there, but it should be more active. Maybe in Somalia, so that as they go through their program, you have heard here, Madam Speaker, some of us at least you are sure that 80% will go back alive home. But you know, even the soldiers, by the time they wake up, they are not sure of even seeing the midday or in the evening, Madam Speaker. So we request that let us have active, more rigorous, established active trauma and counseling centers, especially when our soldiers go to missions of bringing peace across the world. But I want to finish and say we celebrate the heroes and soldiers who keep our country safe, who keep our property safe, who give the lives of Kenyans safe, who have ensured they protect tourism in this country, Madam Speaker. And I know with time we will be able to defeat the terrorism that is ravaging across our borders and across the whole of Africa and the world as a whole. We want to tell soldiers across where they are at the moment, be it Somalia or any other places trying to bring peace, be it Lamu, that they are protecting our boundaries, that as a Senate they have our unequivocal support, and we are continuing to pray for them, and we are saying they continue to be our heroes of our time. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Langat Christopher Andrew.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for also giving me this chance, though the motion had come to an end. I want also to support this particular very important motion that concerns our military personnel. These particular people plays a very important role in our country. They sacrifice so much on their lives, particularly in their families, Madam Speaker. This reminds me one time when there are a lot of riots in our schools, in our country, that most of the students were burning schools. One of the findings of a particular body that was actually asked to conduct research on what were the causes and what the types of students who were most prevalent in doing this particular problem, it was very unfortunate that the highest number of the culprits were children from whose parents were either the police or the people from the military. We realized later on that these people live very far away from their families for 12 months, and their fathers or their parents normally arrived home as visitors once in every year, only for some few days. And therefore, the day-to-day discipline of their children, providing the fatherhead figure in their families, was a great challenge. So I want to say that this particular concern should be taken very seriously, and even examination of the policies and legislation related to the service of these particular people should actually be examined and be revised, Madam Speaker. And I want to say that their families, apart from themselves facing a lot of challenges, their spouses also faces a lot of challenges. They live in isolation. They are constantly in worry, particularly for those whom their spouses are serving in AMISONs, like in Somalia. Their families are going through challenges day to day that actually requires a lot of these particular services. So I want to support this particular motion. I want also to say that their housing facilities in their military places, for those at least who are married, Madam Speaker, should be considered. Putting all of them to live in particular tents, when their spouses visit them. I have realized also that the quotas for the married people are very few, yet those who are married are many. This one should be considered, Madam Speaker, in their places of work, so that at least these people be closer to their families and bring up better families like any other person. Otherwise, they will risk actually protecting our country from Al-Shabaab and the rest of those particular dangerous groupings of people, only to retire at home and find their children to have become worse than the Al-Shabaab that they have been chasing away. So I want to say, I support this motion, and I want to say that the particular committee concerned should take this one seriously and even develop it to a bill so that the structures in armed forces be revised. Otherwise, most of them are still very colonial, and they are not supportive to these particular people. That is why most of them, when they retire, they find their homes miserable. They just retreat to their homes that they have done very little during their service, and they become frustrated. You get them over drinking, and these people need to be supported. These particular services are very crucial to these particular people, Madam Speaker. I therefore support this particular motion and say it is very important. Thank you.
Senator Wako Naomi Jilo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion. And from onset, I want to say that I support this motion because of what our disciplined forces go through together with their families. Madam Speaker, we know as Kenyans, our disciplined forces are exposed to a lot of danger and a lot of risk. The lifestyle exposes them to a lot of stress, and they are also, when they do their work, they go through so many things that gives them a lot of stress. And that is why I support this motion, so that we can be able to help them and transform their lives. In the past, we know very well that many have suffered, many have lost their lives, and as a nation, we have not even taken care of their families. In fact, a lot of children have lost, the opportunity to go to good schools. The families are suffering. The women who are left behind are always crying, depressed, and some have even developed, chronic illnesses because of the type of problem that they have gone through. So even when you consider the rules, they go through rigid rules, and that exposes them to a lot of frustration. And that is why, Madam Speaker, I support this. And it is my prayer that one day this nation will, behave and take care of the families. Madam Speaker, we have lost many heroes, and we have not given them the attention they deserve. We have not given their families, and sometimes even the extended families, the mothers who have given birth to sons and daughters who have lost their lives, as they protect our nation, and even other nations have suffered with a lot of, have suffered a lot because of the stress and the loss of their loved ones. And unfortunately, the government, and I think we do not have good plans for them. The issue of counseling has been stressed so much by honorable members. I know they have chaplains in every camp or wherever they go, But due to the risk that they're exposed to, the challenges that they go through, I think to have a special counseling center which goes beyond the individual person, I think is very important, whereby even the families go through the counseling sessions so that the women can be fully prepared, just in case of anything. Just in case anything happens, the women can be prepared so that they can be able to stand firm and support their families. The children can also be given counseling so that in case of anything, then they can be fully prepared for anything that can happen, and pray that, you know, their loved ones will be well protected. Madam Speaker, we should also think of how we can enhance their capacity. Most of the time when we send our armed forces, they go in and no one thinks of capacity building and how they can improve. If we do that, then we can be able to motivate them. They can improve, you know, their levels of education, and they can be relevant even in the field. So the government should come up with a proper plan for them to even enhance their education, for them to have proper capacity building so that they can be relevant, they can be active enough, and they can be knowledgeable enough in what they do. And even when opportunity comes and they go beyond Kenya, then they can be able to serve others well. As I finish, Madam Speaker, we know very well that the salaries they get is also very minimal. Most of the time when you look at them and their families and where they stay, you sympathize with those families. Madam Speaker, we should come up with a way of empowering them economically so that they can be able to create their wealth. You know, as they serve the nation, as they protect all of us, then the families can also be given an opportunity maybe to do businesses so that they can be able to create their own wealth. And even when they retire, then they can retire peacefully, gracefully, and enjoy the investments that they have done. Again, when it comes to gender, I think, Madam Speaker, there is need for us to stress on that so that there'll be no gender discrimination. Women can also be given enough opportunity to exercise their gifts and talents, and also to serve their families very well. So, Madam Speaker, with those few remarks, I support the motion and hope that Kenya will one day provide all the things that our armed forces need and their families. Thank you.
Senator Nderitu John Kinyua.
Asante sana. Asante sana Madam Speaker kwa kunipa fursa hii. Kwanza kabisa nataka kupongeza mswada huu ambao umeletwa na Senator Haniri. Ni mswada ambao unafaa zaidi kwa sababu askari wetu ambao wamejitolea na kujizatiti kuilinda nchi yetu na familia zinapaswa zichungwe, kwa sababu wale ndio watu ambao tayari wamejitolea na wamejitolea hata maisha yao waweze kutulinda sisi na kuwalinda wale wengine. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri serikali na maafisa ambao wanahusika kuchukua fursa ya kuangalia wale ambao ni askari wetu ambao wanafanya kazi nzuri sana. Watu ambao wanajitolea kuipati maisha yao na pamoja na familia zao kuziweka katika hali ya tahadhari. Kwa hivyo wakati wowote tuchukue fursa zozote ama nyakati zozote ambazo tunapata kuweza kuwasaidia wale watu. Ninajua kwamba kuna askari wengi ambao wamepoteza maisha yao wakiwa wanashughulikia nchi yetu, na familia zao wanabaki katika hali hohehahe, wanashindwa ilikuwa ni hali gani badala ya wao kuangaliwa. Sasa familia zimebaki, kama ni akina mama wanabaki mayatima, kama ni mtu ambaye ni mzee anabaki akiwa peke yake baada ya mke wake kupoteza maisha yake akiwa anashughulikia nchi. Unapata watu wanakosa motisha, watu wanakosa ule upendo katika nchi yao, kwa sababu hata wale waliokuwa na upendo katika nchi yao unapata hakuna mtu anawashughulikia. Kwa hivyo mswada huu mimi naunga mkono, nasema ya kwamba ni vizuri watu wasikuwe wakichukuliwa tu kwa mzaha. Hawa ni watu ambao mtu ambaye anajitolea maisha yake, si kama tuseme kwa mfano, si kama mwalimu. Huyu ni mtu ambaye beba bunduki, na bunduki unajua risasi ikitoka ni mpaka mtu afe ama ajeruhiwe. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri mswada huu uchukuliwe, nimpongeze ili uleta, na ni wakati mzuri sana kwa sababu wakati huu tunaoishi kuna maafa mengi, kuna magaidi, unapata mipaka yetu inapata na shida kwa sababu wale ambao ni ndugu zetu wengi, nchi ambazo tunapakana nazo, unapata zile hakuna usalama. Kwa hivyo ni vizuri tuchukulie mswada huu kwa hali ambayo inafaa, na sisi wenyewe tuunge mkono, na nataka kumpongeza Mheshimiwa Senator Haniri kwa kuleta mswada huu. Asante sana Madam Speaker.
Honorable Senators, pursuant to Standing Order 79, I determine that this motion does not affect counties. Therefore, I will put a voice vote. I therefore put the question that appreciating the commitment and sacrifice by members of the disciplined forces in protecting our country from both internal and external aggression, aware that the risky and stressful environment that the officers are exposed to daily in their line of duty, combined with the increased terrorism threats at home and abroad, noting that members of the disciplined forces and by extension their families are exposed to traumatic incidents both at home and abroad that manifest as living in constant fear, deliberating depression, nightmares, crippling anxiety, and thoughts of suicide, commonly referred to as post-traumatic stress disorder, leaving them exposed to the stigma of society and unable to care for themselves and their families the way they could before. Recognizing that there is no structured national comprehensive program for post-traumatic stress counseling, either for active or returning soldiers and their families. Now, therefore, the Senate calls upon the Ministry of Interior and Coordination of National Government in partnership with the Ministry of Defense to establish counseling and support centers in all premises housing disciplined forces and provide mandatory counseling to all service personnel and the families of those currently serving and those who may have been killed in the line of duty. Honorable Senators, I now put the question. I now will as many as are of the opinion say aye. And those of the contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 14, motion, planting of trees along major infrastructure projects in Kenya.
Next order.
Order number 15, motion, legal and policy interventions for caregivers of persons with permanent motor and neurological disorders.
Next order. Just end, please. Honorable Senators, there being no other business, Honorable Senators, there being no any other business, it is now time to adjourn the House. The Senate therefore stands adjourned until tomorrow, Wednesday, 11th September 2019 at 2:30 p.m.